we're going to play a game. It's called Which Chicagoan Would Win in a Fight?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to Chiaspora, the show where we interview those who left Chicago but Chicago never left them. Today, I got a friend and a colleague. This guy is definitely from Chicago, but he's been in LA for a while. You've seen him in pretty much every Kevin James anything. You were in King of Queens. You were in Here Comes the Boom.
I was.
What were the other ones that you did? Weren't you in Mall Cop?
Mall Cop 1 and Dos. I was in Zookeeper. And that's it. And then I did a promo with him. We did for, he was hosting the Kids' Choice Awards. We did a really funny promo.
That's awesome.
And then multiple episodes. We're buds, so he was good to me. He was
That's
good
awesome.
With his friends.
This is Michael Burton. Funny thing is, he has a good story about this, because Michael Burton, what is the whole thing with your name?
So, Schwartz is my last name. Yes, I'm a Jew. I don't use my real name, although I may go back to it. I just did a series we talked about. We'll talk about it, but I used my real name in the series. I didn't use my real name when I started stand-up in Chicago. A lot of the outskirty towns, like you go to like Berwyn and Cicero and these areas, that's really the Klan. They're like the headquarters.
Right. You don't want to be saying your last name. No, there's no Goldbergs out there.
There's no Goldbergs. There's no Feldsteins. There's no bombs.
Even though Schwartz sometimes is a German last name too, which
it's
is
a German name. Schwartz, it means black,
right.
But in America it means Jew.
Right. Exactly.
If you spell it the way I do, Schwartz, you're a Jew.
So when did you change? You changed it when you were in Chicago?
I did. When I started stand-up and acting, I went with my middle name. My dad was understanding. Had I known I was moving to L.A. and how showbiz is, I would have never changed it. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like, I go to an audition, I'm like, it's really Schwartz. But no, back there, it's like, people think there's no anti-Semitism. Of course there is. There was a show I did, and when I say Berwyn and Cicero, my dad used to have buddies out there when we grew up. I'll never forget. These guys were at my bar mitzvah. But man, that area, I did a show one time with a guy you know who was on your show. Probably one of the funniest guys you ever met is Jimmy Pardo. Yeah. And a guy named Pete Schwaba. You know Pete Schwaba?
No.
Oh, man, he's so funny. Great writer. Very, very funny. Okay, a little side note.
No,
here.
go.
Okay, so this is gotta be 92, 93-ish, 92. So Jimmy, me, and Pete are working, it's on Roosevelt Road, I think it was. It was just a dump.
Is this place still around?
I don't think so. I hope not. All jokes aside, no, that might have been a good room. I can't remember.
That's a great name.
Yeah. It was whatever the room was. I'll never forget. It was like 8, 10 people in the room, and Jimmy's on stage, and Jimmy was headlining, and these guys, the audience were just assholes. They were just bothering Pete and I, and we had to rip into them. And then Jimmy went up there. And he started going back and forth. He even at one point said, "Yeah, you think you could go do better?" And the guy went on stage. And when he went on stage, Pete and I we were ruthless with the guy.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about your track record a little bit.
I do like to scuffle if need be. So he comes off stage, and then Jimmy made a comment. I don't know if either one of these guys remember this. I remember this clear as day, and this
I'll
is
ask
exactly
him.
what
I will literally text. I can text him now.
Absolutely. So I hope he remembers this. So Jimmy's on stage, and he makes a comment about Skokie, and that's where I'm from.
Yeah, which is, by the way, for people who don't know the area, it's like the most Jewish area, and that was when the KKK actually came in and did a rally there.
Right, so the KKK, the local Nazis, wanted to march there in 77, the year of my bar mitzvah. It's actually, Skokie's not a big plethora of Jews. It's such a misnomer. They have the reason the Nazis wanted to march there is they have at the time they had the most number of concentration camp survivors.
Wow!
So they picked it because they're by nature they're douchebags.
Well, they're very well researched before Google, huh?
Yeah. So no, that's why they wanted it. It's not like no. It wasn't predominantly a ton of Jews, and it's definitely not now. They had a lot of Holocaust survivors, so that's why they chose it, to stick the knife in the wound.
That's where the museum is now.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not. I haven't been in Skokie in ages.
Wow. Well, yeah, they have a Holocaust memorial.
That's probably why.
Yeah. Bill Clinton helped to open up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
My brother. Yeah. So back to this show, though. So Jimmy said something, and the guy said something about Jews. And there was so much tension in the room that Jimmy said something. I remember Jimmy's like, I just want to fight all you guys. But Jimmy doesn't like to fight. But Pete was I'll never forget, Pete was a judo guy. He's a tough guy, Pete Schwaba. And I love to fight. It was just assholes. I don't just start.
Right. No, you're a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
I'm a mensch, but you want to be a dick, I'm happy to put you in your place.
Right.
So I remember, I am not embellishing this at all. Jimmy looks out and he doesn't see us. He's like, "Where are you guys?" Because he said he wants to fight them, and Pete and I were down on the ground stretching out. Stretching out. Most shows you want to say goodbye to the people. Hey, thanks for coming. We're on the ground stretching out, and I'm like, "We're down here." No one said a word to us afterwards, though. But I wanted to beat the shit out of these guys. Can I talk like that?
Yes, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. So yeah,
that's funny. I didn't know that you actually had shows with Jimmy. That's awesome.
Many. He's one. Really, I mean, he was funny then. He's funny now. I forgot what it was. I think he thought I wanted to hit him one time. I used to host an open mic at Excalibur.
Yeah. You guys remember Excalibur? Anybody who does, leave a comment, because that was the joint right downtown where they became a music joint. And
well, I DJ'd there. I was the first DJ there. And we had a rock and roll area, and I used to host an open mic. And it used to be the best comics. Right? Jimmy Dore, Steve Seagren, Jimmy Pardo, Pete used to come in, Greg Schwem, Jim McHugh, guys you might not know that were so good. But then also Bernie Mac. I mean, there were some hot, and then there were singers, and these guys used to go up there, and it was a tough room, but that's why they were so good. And that's way back in the genesis of them. Real quick, back to my name, though. I will tell this one time.
It's okay, good.
I won't throw this guy under the bus, but his name's Michael Pettit, so I will. I accidentally said his name. People ask me still even, like, why won't you use a real name? So this honestly happened not that long ago.
Is it in Chicago?
No, out here.
Okay.
They're like, why don't you use... I moved out here in 96. And he's like... he asked me to do a gig for him. I said, I'll do it. And I'm never offended by a Jewish joke. I could give two shits. If you know a Jewish joke, I'll laugh at it. Some guy told me one last night at a Super Bowl party. My friend's dad, Peter York, his dad. I couldn't stop laughing. It was a funny joke. Who cares? Funny is a good way to diffuse racism and anti-Semitism and everything.
It's the best.
Absolutely. But when you don't know someone's Jewish or whatever and you sneak it in.
Right.
So this guy...
doing it as a way of being mean, but around other people. Yeah,
this cock muffin, he goes... he tells me what the gig money is for the gig. I call the gig. They lowered the money, so I call him back. I don't feel like doing it. It's shitty money. On the phone, he goes, "Oh, man." He goes, "They're just trying to Jew you down."
Yeah.
I go, "Dude," I go, "I'm Jewish, right?" He goes, "Oh, well, what they're trying to do is give you less money." Thank you, Adolf. I had honestly no idea what you meant by the Jimmy down of it, you dumbass.
By the way, do you know that the term Jewing down was so funny? I only heard it once in my life as a kid, and it was actually in college. I hadn't heard it up until then. But it was said in passing. First time I ever heard it in that form. It was very weird.
Yeah, I heard it all the time. It doesn't... Listen, I was just joking with a buddy of mine because I'm getting married in hopefully September. So he knows my buddy Burge. He knows the guy who is in the band that I want. So he's like, I'll get him for a good price. I go, Burge. I go, no offense, but chew him down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I want him.
Yeah, use it to your advantage.
He goes, we follow Burge, literally, Burge Shabazian. He goes, we followed you. You guys taught us how to do that. I'm like, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
No, please go get that band for less for me.
Yeah, we're looking for a deal. We have coupons.
I found a deal.
Exactly. Where did you grow up? What?
Skokie. I lived in Skokie for 16 years. My parents, my dad wanted to move throughout the north side. Like if you're a Jew in Chicago, you're on the north side. It was almost like we were in the military. It started happening like every 2 years. He's moving, but he's not. He used to be in the army, but
not for work or anything. He just wanted to move.
He just wanted, like, if someone, he started selling real. My dad's my hero. My dad was an orphan. Grew up in a foster home and orphanages on the south side. He wanted to sell real estate. He sold insurance my whole life. Wanted to sell real estate, but he didn't graduate high school. So at 52, him and my brother was 27. They both went and took their GEDs together. We had a high school graduation party for the two of them. My brother was class president. My dad was very proud of him. And it was just those two. And then my dad started selling real estate. And he would have, I remember one time a guy came over to talk to my dad about a house. He was interested in getting a house. And he made my dad an offer on his. And next thing you know, we got to pack up and move.
That is the way a lot of these real estate agent guys, because they just, if they can find a way to keep it going, they do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he loves it. My dad is turning 84 in October.
Congrats.
Still works full time.
Good for him.
Yeah, and he's having a hard time. He's got some issues. My mom drives him. She puts out the signs for him. He gets out. He sits in the open house. Half the time he forgets his laptop in there, and my mom has to go back.
Hey,
and
the fact that he knows how to work a laptop, you got to give him the best of his ability. He knows how to turn it on.
They're not technically savvy.
It's okay. How many times do you get a call? Can you help us?
Well, my fiance, we talk to my mom almost every day. They're still together, but they're celebrating, by the way, 60 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They're great. They get along great. My friends love them. Everyone loves them. So we do a FaceTime a lot, and it's hysterical. I got to videotape it one time. Whenever they're going to say goodbye, my mom, it's just a game. It's literally been 1,000 times. She doesn't know how to stop it. So she gets paused every time. So we'll be like, all right, Ma, we love you. And she always does, bend your kepi. And we go like this. And she kisses my head. Then she kisses my fiance's head. And then we have a poodle. And she says, all right, Emmett. And she kisses the dog's head.
That's so cute.
But we love it.
That is so cute.
Oh, my God. My mom's the best.
That is the cutest thing.
My best friend, my mom.
That is so cute.
When she goes to hang up, I'm like, all right, Ma, we got to go. And she'll hit it. And I'm like, all right, try to hit end this time. And it's the same thing every time. And all of a sudden it says pause.
Right, of course.
She's like, are you guys there? Yes, Mom, we're there. No, you're not. Yes, we are, Mom. We're responding to you. I kid you not. It was so funny. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had my buddy Sebastian and his fiancee Leela over. And we're having my parents on FaceTime. And my dad's way less tech savvy than her. And so she always hits it with like her nail. You hear this instead of the tap.
Sure.
And so my dad, my fiance, Marianne, she's like, Mom, just touch the screen and hit the FaceTime app. And my dad goes, it's right there. And she goes, that's Facebook. And he goes, it's the same thing. And then we're listening. They always forget that we're on.
Right.
And they start talking to each other. And they're arguing.
It's like every stereotypical thing you would get in like a commercial.
Yeah. It's really, they're arguing with each other that Facebook, and my mom's like, Facebook and FaceTime are
They're
not
the same. They're the same.
And he's arguing, yes, it is. And we're like, no, it's not.
It's amazing. I still like the kepi, which is Yiddish for head.
Head. Kiss my kepi. Yeah.
Where'd you go to grammar school?
I went to Fairview North, then Fairview South, and then Niles East. And Niles East closed my sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
And then I went to West.
Gotcha. When did it even start? Did you go to college?
I went to Northern Illinois, DeKalb.
Were you doing comedy even then?
No. 5.5 years of undergrad, 4 summer schools. Still technically never finished. Whatever. I'm still a senior, technically. And I'm a senior. I'm a senior and a senior, I guess.
and you're engaged.
Yes. It all happened. So went to Northern, made great friends, grew up as a man, didn't learn a thing. It's not Northern's fault. It's me. I was a shithead. I never studied. I cheated. There were times I used to get the test before I took them, and I still got a C. I don't even know how to. I can't even justify that. I had the answers. I should have done better.
I think it's you either wanted to or didn't. You know, that kind of thing.
I have ADD. My parents actually, they came to and my grandfather came to the graduation of Northern.
Wait, he came to the graduation that you didn't graduate at?
I went through the ceremony. I didn't have the heart to tell him I'm not graduating.
Oh, so my gosh.
Enough was enough.
Does that even happen today? I don't even know if that's possible.
I won't throw anyone under the bus. My fiance did the same thing.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry, baby. She just got her master's in forensic psychology from Cal State LA. But she went through the ceremony long before she was done with her thesis. So she did the same thing. What's up? But she graduated.
She graduated. She finished.
There's a whole big whatever. Shut up. And you're a dick. And so I didn't have the heart to tell my parents. I went to the ceremony, and then like 2 years later, my mom's like, we never got your diploma because they mail it to you. And I'm like,
she actually noticed. Like, where's the proof? We put all that money in.
No? I said, you might want to sit down for this one.
Oh, my God.
It's not coming. It won't be here unless I finish.
You should have kept that going. You should be like, I think the mail got it.
Yeah. like we used to do. My brother used to take my report cards out of the mail and sign them.
Did he?
Oh, God, yeah.
See, times have changed. I don't think you could do that.
My brother, God, he would have been a great forger. Just went in the wrong business. He's in electronics instead. But I would take Robert's. He would take mine.
That's funny.
I don't think my parents saw a report card in like 8 years growing up.
But you went through Niles. Well, you finished Niles West. That you definitely did.
I did graduate high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go to college. You come back to live back at home, and then did you say like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I should crack jokes.
No.
What was the path?
I just had college-wise, I mean, I worked in bars. I used to bounce in a bar called Otto's in DeKalb.
Oh, you weren't a bartender. You were just a bouncer.
No, there I was a bouncer. I didn't start bartending or DJing until I used to work I worked at Otto's, and first of all, they would let us drink while we worked, which is not wise to let the doorman drink. And my roommates, oh my God, these guys I played football my last 2 years. I walked on, I was like Rudy. I was in one play, and it was before the movie Rudy. These guys were huge. So, whenever you get these drunk assholes from frats that want to fight, they would never want to fight my buddies. They'd always want to fight me. And I was the one who liked to fight. So it always was me. They're like, the big guys are like, okay, you dummy. And I would just have a field day. I used to have so much fun. So then I was working at a bar called Hang Up. The Hang Up on 14 West Elm in Chicago. And me and my buddy Mike Coleman, he's one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. And he's a badass. So Mike and I used to work the door, and we used to get in so many fights at the door that one time I got in a scrap at the door, and the manager got mad at me for doing it until the guy spit on the manager's face later and he thanked me.
Oh, geez.
He goes, go down and turn on the DJ booth and see if you could do something. Next thing I know, I'm playing like Bachman Turner Overdrive, taking care of business, and everyone's going nuts. I'm like, this shit's more fun than fighting. And I started DJing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was the start.
That was definitely the start. So I started DJing, and I was bouncing. Then I got a job as a doorman at the Improv in Chicago, and then became a DJ at a bar at Excalibur. And so the general manager of the Improv, this guy Steve Baker, who unfortunately is not with us, 27, died of a heart attack. Great guy. Was influencing a lot of people in stand-up. So I used to host this open mic at Excalibur, and when I would have like these amazing comics in, and he thought I was funny. I would go up there and just introduce them, and I was just comfortable with. I knew all the comics there from being the doorman. I knew all the singers and the audience members because I was there every week DJing, and so I was comfortable with it. And I just would go up there and I would do sketches and stuff. And one day he asked me, "Hey, can you come over and MC a show at the Improv?" And this guy named Paul Slater, who kind of started me in stand-up too, he was the first MC there. He goes, you're going to MC for Paul and see if you could just bring up the first comics. The way the Improv used to do it, it was these guys, like Jimmy and these guys were so good.
Yeah, name some people, recognizable names of the time that you would see.
Well, headliner-wise?
Yeah, who
it was
to
like
the Improv?
Ellen, Dennis Miller, Rosie O'Donnell, Dana Carvey,
Yeah, so it was like,
Dana Gould, who's one of the, oh my God, that guy's funny. Some people that you don't know are the funniest people. Dana Gould is brilliant.
Yeah.
Robert Schimmel, who unfortunately is not with us anymore. Some great comics, fantastic of that era. Alan Havey, who, I became friends with Rick Overton, Rick Overton's one of my favorite stories and one of my favorite comics, one of my favorite people. So Rick, Rick Overton?
I personally do not.
Oh, he's great. So Rick, when I was a doorman, just checking IDs, this guy taught me a lot because he always treated me the same way. He treated me as a doorman, the same way he treated, the general manager and everyone else. So we became friends when I was a doorman there in like 89, 90 at the latest. And Rick was always nice. He would bring us up. I was a doorman. He'd bring us up on stage to do improv. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing up here. And so he was just involve us. He was really a good guy.
He's just a supportive dude.
Absolutely. Great comic, headliner, everything. Here's the ironic part. Then I move out here in 96. Rick and I stayed in touch. I started as a doorman at the Improv. And in 96, before I left, I headlined the Improv.
Wow.
So I went from doorman to house MC to opening act. The way they had that MC, then an opening act, to feature act, to headliner in 6 years there.
Wow.
So I was happy. I loved it. I would learn from a lot of great people.
But you knew you had to eventually probably go to
yeah. We all did. They look at all the guys that you'll have on here or that you know from Chicago.
Yeah.
They all morphed in camp. Not all of them. There's some great ones, Mike Toomey and some guys there.
Sure.
But no, there's a lot of them that came out here in transplants.
Sure.
And so I was Steve Baker asked me to do this show. I went up there. I almost ruined the whole show. It was a train wreck like you've never seen before.
It's bombing.
Bombing is such a step up from what really happened.
Oh God!
Yeah, I'll tell you that in a second.
Oh God!
It gestated from Paul. They were kind of set me up. Paul Slater was moving to. I think he moved to Buffalo at the time, and they go, "Hey man," they offered me a job where I took about an 80% pay cut to be the house MC there, so you get a lot of stage time. And no benefits, but Excalibur was so supportive. They were so cool to me. This guy named Jim Earl, I still remember. He still kept me. He gave me, I had full benefits there. He gave me all my insurance and everything for like 3 years while I tried to pursue stand-up.
Wow. I don't know if you'd have that these days.
No way. He was a great guy. If Jim Earl's still around, man, you did a solid for me, buddy. And so when I went over to, my first night even, I was so nervous. I was hosting, I'll never forget, or hosting, I had to bring up the first act and everyone else, it was New Year's Eve, and the headliner was, you know who Dave Coulier is?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, Full House.
Full House.
I met him. I got a story for that one.
Yeah, well, I ruined Dave's New Year's that night. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a nervous wreck. They asked me to do this thing, and
Dave Coulier, you ruined Dave Coulier's night, huh?
Well, no, I didn't just ruin Dave's. I ruined everyone in the audience's night, and I ruined the three comics or two comics after me.
What happened here?
Not a doubt in my mind. I learned a lot that night. It's got to be like 91. My first time really going on stage. And it was New Year's Eve. Dave Coulier's the headliner. Harry Tynowitz, who's a very funny guy, does a lot of sports there now. He's the opener. I think Greg Schwem was featuring. And I went up there. And before I went up there, some of my buddies came in. And I'm wearing a suit. I haven't worn a suit since then on stage either. I learned a lot of lessons that night. I did 6 shots of Jägermeister. I thought that would calm me down. It's still to this day, 28 years later, I don't drink before I ever go on stage. I'll drink afterwards. I never drink before I go on stage. Anyone will tell you that. I go up, and then right before I go up, I go to Harry Tynowitz. I go, hey man, what do I do if someone heckles me? And he goes, mind you, everyone paid $50 a head to be at this show. Sure. I'll never forget, there were these silver tickets. And I don't know what hacky is. Like, you know what hacky is? Like, you're doing old jokes. Like, I don't go where you work and knock the dicks out of your mouth. It's an old hacky shit. You never want, as a good comic, do that. I didn't know what hacky even was. Harry tells me this line. Hey, if somebody gives you a hard time, hey, next time you go out, put a rubber over your head. Because if you're going to act like a dick, you might as well dress like one. So in my head, I'm like, cool. I have material.
Yeah, exactly. You have something to go with.
There's my opener.
Yeah.
I don't.
There's my opener.
There's my opener. And my closer. It's it. That's all I got. I don't know. All I'm supposed to do is go up there and bring up the acts. I go up there, and the alcohol made me more nervous. So now I know that. That's
really?
Yeah,
you would think it would have an adverse effect there.
It probably does for most people, not for me. It did not work that way. It did not calm me.
Okay.
I wish I smoked weed back then. So I go up on stage, and it's New Year's Eve. And I go, how you folks doing? So they're excited. It's New Year's. They go, yeah, whatever. And one guy goes, woo! And I go, yeah, fuck you, man. Next time you go out, put a rubber over your head. If you're going to act like a dick, you might as well dress like one. The guy didn't do anything.
he just gave one little shout.
It's different. If someone's a douchebag in the crowd and they won't shut up, the audience is on your side.
Yeah, of course.
Put them in their place.
But you did it early on.
The guy didn't do anything. If I see him today, I don't know what he looks like, I'll apologize. It's my bad.
Okay.
Totally my bad.
So that guy's crying somewhere still.
He's definitely in therapy. And so I just bury him with this hacky thing. So I used a hacky joke. I got drunk. It made me more nervous. And then there was an instant silence in the room. I created so much tension in the 24 seconds I was on there that it ruined the show.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and then I get off stage. I'll still remember this. I don't even know to get off and walk out the back. I get off and I sit at the front table with my friends. And then the next comic comes up, and I can feel people staring at me. I'm like,
to rip you a shred.
yeah. And I don't know anything yet, and I just feel everyone. I'm like,
How old
That
are you?
didn't go
How old
well.
are you?
Jeez, I don't know. I was 25 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. It was terrible, man. It was just a train wreck. After the show, Steve Baker, who started me, he was literally, I thought he was going to kill Harry Dinowitz. He was yelling at Harry for telling me the line. And I'm like, it's not Harry's fault. He was telling me what to do in case this happens. And it was just a dreadful moment.
But what did Dave Coulier fall into all this?
He was headlining. I ruined the whole.
So basically, he came on after.
Yeah. I came on the
you.
way the improv used to do it. They don't do it this way now. Now it's, well, they might sometimes in a showcase club, but it's usually an opener, feature, headliner.
Sure.
15 minutes, 25,
Sure.
45-ish. Right. So I would go up there. They always had a house MC. You'd go up and do a couple minutes, bring up the opener, then you go back up and bring up everybody. So the opener wasn't even an opener there. They used to fly openers out from L.A. Back then, everyone that flew out back then,
wow,
great comics. Guys that like, I mean, they would get $1,000, and this is in 91, flown out, stayed at Presidential Towers, this beautiful place, and be the opening act and do 15 minutes. The feature acts back then were the best acts headliners now.
Wow.
Judd Apatow, feature act.
Sure.
One of the most successful, Mark Brazil, these guys, he created the 70s show. That 70s show. Judd Apatow's Judd Apatow. These guys they were so brilliant. They would go up there and feature, come out there for great money. This is back then. The feature money back then is better than headliner money now.
Wow.
For most clubs.
You started in Chicago for that little period. You moved out here, and then were you was like almost like back to intern feel, or were you already starting to get bigger gigs out here? Bigger gigs out here.
Like I used to do the road a lot. I was a road hog. I was doing 40, 45 weeks a year on the road. So I didn't move out here till
you established yourself.
Yeah, somewhat-ish. I was headlining, sometimes featuring, but if it was good money back then, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And then saved up, I think it was like $10,000 in 96. I lost 9 of it on a stock on Kookaroo. I have a funny story about that, and I'll tell you. But so I moved out here in 96, somewhat established. I was doing it well commercially back there. My agent back there, CESD, is still my agent to this day. I think they kind of dissolved back there when the commercial strike happened in like 94. But then out here they're so good. And so I signed with them in 96 and been with them since.
That's awesome.
So I kind of went right back in, commercially I still do them. I showed you one right before I went on. Yeah. But it's starting over in some ways because now you can't be a huge fish in Chicago because there's so many talented people. It's better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond.
Sure.
So you could be a big fish there, and then you come out here and it's even a bigger pond.
Yes.
Because there's so many. You go to New York.
But if you can do it and you do it well, there's a chance.
For sure.
And I think people respect a lot of Chicagoans when they're here. It's kind of like, oh, okay. It seems that the people out here all knew you from back then too.
We all knew each other. I mean, guys like Mike Siegel. I saw him the other day. I mean, I love these guys. And women. You become definitely brothers and sisters.
Were your friends noticing that you were kind of that? Were you like the goof guy in high school?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so you were always like that in a way.
Always like that around people I'm comfortable with, but I would get nervous
on stage.
For sure. Yeah. Like I said, giving speeches, but I can't tell you how many teachers said, "What are you, a comedian?" And now you could actually, a lot of comics, I guarantee we all had that at some point. Listen, 90% of us are insecure. Yeah. You want that attention. I used to fight to get attention. I became more popular when I used to get in fights. And then when you go and you do stand-up and the attention's on you, you're up there for attention. You could be insecure, but that's your way of kind of self-fulfilling what you lack. It really is.
You and I talked about this. This is funny about you. How emotional you get. You get into fights, but yet you're like the most sensitive soul. How does that even work?
I don't know. I got something wrong. I really don't know. I swear, man, my fiance, she gives me because she's like you. You guys are both assholes. I love you, baby. I'm just kidding if you will see this. Is that, but it's like, she's not an emotional person. I cry. There's not a doubt in my mind. I cry more in one day than she does all year.
Have you cried today?
Probably at some point. I don't know. I'm sure I will at some point. I'm sure you'll hurt my feelings.
But the funny thing is, it's not like it doesn't come off at least like you're like a sad guy. It seems like you.
No, I'm not. It's not that way.
Right. You just really care about certain things and you get attached to it in an emotional way, it seems.
I really, because I said to her the other day, I'm like, we were watching this show, and I'm like, I can't control it. I don't know if I have, people say if you eat too much soy, you get estrogen. I'm like, maybe I've eaten too many, I'm a meat eater, but I've also eaten a lot of veggie. I don't know what's going on in my body, but I've always been this way of like, anyone that knows me well knows I won't back down from a fight. I've taught martial arts for a long time. I hate rude people. I hate assholes, and I just don't like them. But I cry literally during AT&T commercials. I have uncontrollably sobbed during Brian's song, and I've seen it at least 30 times.
That's a very emotional movie.
I know, but I know every word of it. I've seen it 30 times, and I'm like, what am I hoping he's going to live? I literally cry so bad. I started laughing before I cry. Like a little giggle, like she's like, and
she knows it. It's like your trigger. It's like she hears it.
She knows, like Marianne, my fiance, she'll go like this. We'll be watching This Is Us. So like if the TV's right where you're at, she's facing forward, she's stone faced. I mean, she feels a little bit, but I'm like, and she goes like this. She doesn't even look. She goes like this, and her arm. She takes her knuckle like this, and she goes, and she knows exactly where my drops are. God. And she goes like this. And yeah, I'm a total pussy when it comes to that. I am. I can't watch. It could be comedy and with a little sentimental. I just lose it. I lose it, and I can't control it. Yeah, I have. There was one I'll never forget. This girl, her grandfather or her father called. It's like it was like like, oh my God, I haven't talked to you in so long, and I just started crying, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's
a 30-second commercial. You must have started crying within 10 to 15.
Yeah. It was right at the end. So yeah, 20 seconds in, I was dying. God, what we were watching the other day, man, and I was uncontrollable.
It's funny to me though. I thought about, because we talked about this. You've done comedy all over the world. You've done stuff for the troops, and which is, by the way, I have always found that to be one of the most noble things to do. Anything you can for
thanks.
Troops,
Well, they're more noble than we are.
No, of course. Yes. But what I'm saying is, when you go out there, it's a really big. They need it.
Yeah.
There are compilations on YouTube. You can watch them of just soldiers coming home to their kids. I am a mess every time.
I know exactly the kind of videos you're talking about, and I'm the same way. Those are really rough to get through. I mean, you're only human, and that's understandable. I do the ununderstandable ones.
What is the weirdest thing you ever had to cry at?
Like, I just did this, we talked about it. I did a TV show in Armenia for 7 weeks.
Yes.
And there was one, I was talking to...
Death
Squad, yeah. And so, on Popstar TV. So, one day I'm going over some lines with this guy, Mike Markoff. Great actor. Very, classically trained. And he breaks down things like I haven't really seen before. And I am more like, okay, let me just kind of get in my groove and my character, and I'll think about it. So he goes, you got to think of something that triggers you. And I think my buddy Josh and Mike Ferguson were in there. But I started telling them about this story that a friend of mine wrote on Facebook about a year ago about her dog was being put to sleep. Which is, I can't even think about it. I can't start. I'm not crying on your podcast. If you make me cry, I swear, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. It's not one of these like, oh, you made me cry. I'm like, I'm going to whoop your ass. Don't do that to me. So there's this one thing this gal told me. She wrote on there, she's like, some lady in the vet where she was going to put her dog to sleep said, it's the last act of love that you can do for your dog. And so this guy's trying to get me. He goes, think of that as your, what's your trigger? And I told him, I go, well, that made me just reading that, I broke down. And then when I told them the story,
you got emotional.
I couldn't stop crying. And these are 3 guys that I'm like, they looked at me as like the tough guy. It's like I'm the head of the unit and the fight thing and everything. I'm like, it was bad. I was hyperventilating. I was crying so hard. So then it came time for me to do the same. But so my buddy Mike Ferguson, who's just as big, he's a beast. He's really, really funny, good guy. So I have to hurt him. I'll keep it that. And in an episode, and then in the follow-up, I have the scene where I'm supposed to be emotional. So I'm like, all right, Markov said to go back to that. So I go to my trigger, and I 4 or 5 times I lose it. It's exactly what they want. Director, 2 things happen. One, he goes, hey, can can you not cry so much? And I'm like, I was just sorry. I was kind of really in the moment there. I was thinking about this dog that Markov told me. I was belling. I was crying too hard. Then it got to the point I kind of just...
How much does that suck? Real quick, you got to take that upset. How much does that suck? It takes so much for an actor. I've had to try to cry. And
I was bawling.
It's hard as hell.
Yeah.
And once you get it, who asked you to reel it back?
He goes, there was, Dan Goldman was the English director, and this guy Harut was the Armenian director. And they're like, can you cry less? And I'm like, yes, please. But it got to the point where I swear, man, I ran out of tears. I'd done fucked up. I cried so much that I'm like, the tank's on E. So then it got to where we were in a groove, and now I'm like, I don't got tears. So in between takes, my fiance, first they did these drops. They burn like, it's like putting acid in your eyes if you want tears to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, that sucks because now my eyes are red and I can't see even who the girl is I'm talking to. So I went like this, I swear, because I always tell people if you're in a fight and you have an opportunity, poke someone in the eye. If it's there, take it. You're not a douchebag. You're not a bad fighter. You're not, fighting dirty. You're a smart guy or a smart woman. Put your finger in the eyes. I was doing this before the takes. Like the Three Stooges.
Oh, my gosh.
I would just jack myself right in the eyes. I'm like, can you cry? I'm like, yeah. Shit, I got nothing. Okay, go.
They better have those outtakes.
Yeah,
better have those outtakes somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. There were a lot of outtakes.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. I pulled myself in the eyes. I ran out of tears, which is very rare because I got plenty.
The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
The troop stuff, you started doing that. You did that for a couple of years, no?
Oh, God, way more than a couple.
How many years did you do it?
15, span of 15
Wow.
maybe. Started in like 93 or 94. I'll never forget. I sent my, this is when I was doing, we all had to do these shit gigs where you're driving 6 hours, sleeping on a couch to make $300.
Yeah.
Going to, and I think I had, I don't know if it was Toledo or Des Moines, Iowa. I had Des Moines, Iowa coming up. And I sent my tape to the government. I sent a tape of me, a VHS tape of me, I think at the Improv, to the USO saying, hey, man, excuse me, if you ever do any shows, which I know you guys do, can you put me in contact with someone or whatever? I just sent it to like this. Her name was Betty Naylor. I'll never forget.
What year is this?
Like 93,
Okay.
94, and I started like 91. And this back in the day before voicemail, we had answering machines. Mark, do you know what an answering machine is?
I do, but
it's
not
like an
everybody else
electronic piece of equipment that records a voice.
I kind of miss the answering machine when you come home and you see how many there messages are on there.
Oh my God, 7 messages, same person.
Exactly. Yeah, he's right. He's mom.
Right. So at the time, I, we had and you could hear when someone's leaving a message. You hear what they're saying, like, "Hey, Mike, you home?"
Yeah.
No, you're just fucking sitting there. So I hear this lady say, my room was pitch black. I had no window pretty much because my brother and I lived in a duplex, and you couldn't see. There were the brick walls in Chicago right next to each other. You open a window and it's a brick wall to the building next to you. So I'm asleep. I hear, "Hi, Mike. This is Betty Naylor calling from the USO. Just wondering if you're interested in going to Italy, Spain, France." And she started saying France. And I almost cracked my head open diving for the phone because if I don't answer it, she's calling the next comic and her list of, hey.
Sure.
So my very first tour was Italy, Spain, France, and Portugal.
Oh, my gosh.
They used to fly you first
Basically
class.
your honeymoon. This is a honeymoon, basically.
Oh, my God. It was great.
Oh, my God.
3 weeks. Flown first class. They're so appreciative. And then it kind of snowballed from there. I probably have done, I could probably even name them, but I've probably done at least 20, 30 countries.
Wow.
In places that you've never even heard of.
That must have been so much fun.
Yeah, and I can remember them in groups. So all right, so I'm gonna try it. You got a second here?
Go.
First one: Italy, Spain, France, and Portugal. Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey. Greenland, Iceland. Japan, Korea, Norway. Yeah. Well, I have a shitty memory, but I remember certain things that I'm in, like every Krav detail. I remember everything. These things I remember just because a lot of them I was there multiple times. I did a lot of Bahrain and Kuwait, Afghanistan multiple times, and then I did these little atolls in the Pacific, Johnston Island, Kwajalein, Chuuk, Khosrow, Ponape. I was in Johnston Island, which is a man-made island to destroy chemical weapons. I was there on 9/11 with a buddy of mine, Don Barnhart, and some other guys. Yeah, and Steve Mazon.
Wow.
Yeah. It was brutal. So I've done a shit ton of traveling. I think I said Turkey. Yeah, I've done a lot.
Wow. You literally have covered the globe. Well, that's the funny thing. Is
and many of them met multiple times.
Did you actually get to enjoy seeing anything of those cities, or was it mostly on bases?
No. Sometimes on base. In Afghanistan, we didn't stay at the local Holiday Inn.
Right.
You're on base.
right.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like, you go to Spain.
Absolutely. We were on a base called Rota in Spain for a long time. But yeah, we got to go in. It sucked though, because I remember going in the middle of the day and there's nowhere to eat lunch because they got the siesta shit. But yeah, no, we got to see a lot of good stuff. In some places you just can't travel or without a military escort.
Right.
You know, even in like, you go to Turkey and stuff like that, you're not allowed to drive because they, no offense, they drive like fucking maniacs. Their horn is like their turning signal.
Were you in Istanbul?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Izmir, Istanbul, yeah, everywhere. And so they, a lot of countries are like that. So they would supply a driver.
Sure.
So, and it was rightfully so.
When you decided that you're going to do acting, was that at the same time as you're doing comedy, or you fell into acting? Because I know you're friends with Gary Valentine, who is also connected to Kevin James and stuff
Gary
like that.
was my closest friend for years. Gary's the one who kind of, I was always good friends with Kevin. But Gary, listen, nepotism's out here. Gary, the reason I was on ever Can't Quince is Gary, and Kevin would throw me on there. We're buds.
How did you meet these
But
guys?
Gary, they're great through the road. Just on.
Gotcha.
I met Kevin, then Gary, and when I was out here, and we just became really good friends. And they're the perfect example. And Raymond and Seinfeld, like some of them, some comedians, and you could look even deeper into like Robin Williams was not only a great comic, but he became a great dramatic actor.
Yeah.
And so, like, I remember saying, like, if you even watch, like, everyone, well, some people bag him, but you'll, like, watch the first Mall Cop and watch Kevin, and I'm like, say what you want or whatever. He's a really funny actor. You could translate. Some people can, some people can't. Like, Seinfeld was the worst actor on Seinfeld.
right.
But you know what? His character was. It is what it is.
Right.
He's the brilliance behind the whole show.
Right.
No one could ever knock what he contributed. He made that show that show.
Right.
But so did everyone else. Was great actors. But look at Robin Williams in The Awakenings and stuff like that. So I want to do more. I mean, I kind of fell out of the loop with stand up as much because I was teaching Krav so much. But now I'm, acting. I had a blast in Armenia. I want to, I'm doing my thing. So I want to act more. I love them both.
That's awesome.
Equally. And I think if you're a good actor, stand-up's harder, but you could do stand-up and go. And it's easier to go from stand-up to acting, I think, than acting to stand-up.
Well,
there are actors that try to do stand-up. People think it's the easiest thing in the world. I'm like, there's no one else. When you're an actor, it's beyond tough. I'll never say acting's easy. So no one should misunderstand the way I mean that. It's brutal, but you can cut and redo it.
Sure.
You have other people in the scene. You have a director helping you to what you want.
Sure.
You go on stage and you have one opportunity to make it happen, and if it doesn't, you lose.
Well, there's theatrical acting, which is different a little bit, obviously.
Oh, sure, but theater, I can never do it. I don't know how. I have nothing but respect for theater actors. I have no
idea how they do that, honestly. I still memorize every single line and know
there's no way
a billion times over. It's crazy.
There's a good chance when I leave here tonight, tomorrow I'll be like, shit, I got to go do that podcast with Mark.
Yeah.
Like, I'll forget. I mean, I'm really bad sometimes with my memory, but they are amazing. We watched Hamilton in Chicago, and I'm like, aside from being a great show, I'm like, I don't get it. How they remember all that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it.
Exactly.
When we did the show in Armenia, I was getting 75 to 100 new lines of dialogue every morning.
Yeah, walk us through that, because you were there for a while. You were there for weeks.
7 weeks. We shot 13 one-hour episodes and technically 6 weeks of shooting. It was brutal. But, and it's like you get so much dialogue. And like I said, I learned a lot from, some of the people I worked with of like dealing with that. And this guy, Markov, really, like, he was helpful of like, and I learned to, record the other lines, listen. But also what I've always done, and I learned way more so in here because I had a lot more material I had to do than I was used to,
sure,
is not just saying your line or thinking, all right, what's Mark's last word? When Mark finishes his last word, it's my turn to talk. It's like, that's the dumbest thing to do.
No, you got to treat it like a real conversation.
Well, not only, acting wise, you always want to be conversational. And I used to, Brian Reese taught me that in LA. But it's like, for sure, I got that down. It's more or less listen to what they're saying. It's not just what you're saying. It's like if you're telling me a story or you're reading your lines, if I just sit there and think, well, you're saying, well, so I got to go to the store tomorrow and then I'm going to go meet Bob. And I'm thinking, all right, he's got to go to the store. Well, all right, so what are you doing after you meet Bob? Like
right.
Your story makes me realize my story.
Tell me how the Krav Maga stuff came, because you're a comedy, and then I don't know if it was a hiatus or it was just most of your life became martial arts.
So a really good friend of mine named John Heffron, who is easily one of the best comics, also get him on your show when he's out here. He's from Michigan, but he lived in Chicago in his first 10 years of comedy, and he's great. One last comic standing, really funny guy. So he's a buddy of mine, and he knows I love martial arts. So one year he did a show for them. Krav hired him to do a show. They used to do this thing called summer camp. And people from around the world would pay a lot of money to come out for an intensive weekend of Krav. And then you go shooting, learn how to use your firearms. And then on Saturday night, as a little getaway, they have, they want to have a comedy night. So John did it, and they gave him a year membership. And he goes, hey, man, maybe I could hook you up with it if you want to do it. They want me to do it again. I don't want to do it again. I did the show last year. So I'm like, all right. So I called up this lady, Marnie Levine, who unfortunately is not with us either. 37, breast cancer, one of the most amazing women I've ever met. Just a badass, a great mother, married to Darren Levine, the guy who actually brought Krav pretty much over from Israel. So I call up Marnie, and I got her to give me 2 years membership instead of one like John got, and a free year for a friend. I gave it to Gary Valentine. He never went. I think he went once. So I called John back. I go, listen, they already think I'm funnier than you because I got double what you got.
You just wanted to stick it in his face.
I just want to stick it in his face for sure. So I did that.
That's funny.
And I started training. I started dating a gal that was running the fitness program, whatever, and just got really into Krav. I just was so into it that they asked me the next year to do another show. So I had 4 years of free membership to start with. And instead of me, charging them, it's normally like $1,500 back then, even for the year.
Sure.
I got my free membership, and I kind of worked my way through there's a way of doing things right there. Like I went through it as a student, through a brown belt, and through as an instructor through a 3rd degree black belt. I just started, they started seeing my progress, and they put me in the teacher's program, and I went through that. And once I started teaching, I didn't even look for work in stand-up anymore. I just became kind of addicted and obsessed with. I loved helping people. You could really help empower people, men, women, children, people that are coming there just to lose weight, coming there to learn how to defend themselves, coming there from an abusive relationship, coming there from fear, coming there from they were beaten by someone. There's so many aspects that go into it, and you talk about emotional. These people are, and they got to trust me, where it's like, they would tell me their personal stories afterwards, or I could see it during class, what they're reacting to. And I just wanted to help people. I was at the best part of my comedy career and just kind of put the brakes on and just started teaching. I was there 7 days a week. When I think I told you this, when I resigned, it was a kind of a workers' comp issue. I still teach private lessons, and that's it. When I was teaching there and I had to resign, I balled my head off like you've never seen. And when I don't know if I told you this, when I wrote on Facebook what I'm going through, my fiance, she would sit there. I mean, it took 2 weeks for me to start responding because these messages weren't like,
good
hey,
luck.
thanks,
Yeah,
good luck. It's they were so heartfelt.
You changed my life.
You changed my life. You saved my life. You did this for me. And I'm like, my buddy Dave used to call me they would call me the Krav Father. And it's like I would read these messages, or whether they were private messages to me or on the board. And I literally, it was hard for me. I was so emotional about it that, it still affects me. I love those people. I love the people I worked with, people I worked for.
It's awesome.
And then the students. I still stay in touch with them, and I love them.
You're D.L. Hughley's kid. That's what you said, right?
He's my black son. His dad and I will fight over who is the real father, even though DL's the real father. No, I love DL. I've known him he's such a good guy. Met his son Kyle, and he became an instructor. He's just a phenomenal student. Yeah, a lot of them I became like a father figure to, and he's definitely one of them.
That's so cool.
He calls my parents, he calls his Jewish grandparents.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's a badass too, man. He's so fast.
That's so awesome.
He has my old body. No, I'm kidding. He's shredded and he's so fast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to do a segment, something I wrote up. I wanted to do it impromptu style, but this is going to be fun. We're going to play a game. It's called Which Chicagoan Would Win in a Fight?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Here we go. Battle of the bands, Fall Out Boy or the band Chicago?
Fall Out Boy might be tougher, but I'm going for Chicago because they're not only one of my favorite bands. Jason Schiff, who was lead singer for a long time, became a friend, and he's a really good guy. So if Chicago's fighting Fall Out Boy, I'm gonna literally jump in and help Chicago. And
So
they're
win.
the only fucking band that uses horns. So and they have more guys. So fuck it. Chicago's winning. Even though Fall Out Boy may be a little scrappier. Sorry, Fall Out Boy. Chicago's winning.
Battle of the Execs, Kenny Williams versus Theo Epstein.
Kenny would beat his ass.
I think Kenny would probably.
Kenny would win in a heartbeat. Kenny was a pro baseball player. His son was a yoked out player for the 49ers. Kenny's an athlete. He's made some bad moves though. Rick Hahn, I love the guy. And I'm a diehard Sox
Yeah,
fan.
Battle of the Politicians, Hillary Clinton versus Rahm Emanuel.
Well, Hillary would definitely claw him in the face.
Right.
And I feel like Rahm, listen, no offense, he's my people. I think Rahm would probably have someone do his fighting for him.
Ah.
So I'm going to go with Hillary.
Battle of the Actors, Bill Murray versus John Cusack.
John Cusack.
Why is that?
And I'm a huge fan of Bill Murray's work, and his brother Joel, I met through Gary, sweetheart of a guy, great guy. Bill Murray, not known as a nice guy, big guy. John Cusack actually is a tough guy. John Cusack and I met him in Excalibur a few times. Didn't really get to know him well, but he actually, God, who was I just training? And they said, John Cusack is trained in martial arts. John actually trains to fight.
Oh, wow.
God, I don't know if he was doing Muay Thai or something, but John's trained. So, John.
Battle of the Models, Jenny McCarthy versus Cindy Crawford.
Crawford. Easy. I know, because I'm sorry, I'm biased on.
I like that you have such straight answers.
Cindy Crawford has been, and when I went to Northern Illinois, she was in my apartment. I was shared it with 5 other guys multiple times. She's from DeKalb. Couldn't have been a nicer gal. I was dating her friend, Lisa Sudduth. They were twins, Lisa and Lori Sudduth. Beautiful girls. And this is back when you might be the Marshall Fields ads. We look into the New Sun Times to see if Cindy's in the Marshall Fields ads and Lauren Taylor. Nice girl, and Cindy would win for sure. Not even a question. She would beat the shit out of Jenny. Yeah, it doesn't matter. She's got me as a. I'm gonna telepathically. I will channel me through her, and she'll beat ass. I will scream to her what to do while she's beating the shit out of Jenny.
Battle of the Stashers. We have Ditka, Quenville, and Phil Jackson.
Ditka's got the mentality.
Sure.
Quenville's a hockey guy. Jackson's for sure the least. Jackson's going to lose to my mom, and she's 83.
Well, he's got the whole Zen thing.
He's zenning. I mean, he's a great guy, but he's going to be, baked and not give a shit. He's not going to want to fight. Quenville, a hockey guy. He's a scrappy guy.
He's a pretty tough dude.
Absolutely. But Ditka, I would give it to Ditka. Ditka had that mentality. When he played, like he was an offense, he was a tight end who used to run over people. He wasn't like, I'm going to go that way. I'm going to go through you that way. So Ditka, doesn't matter how old he is, he'll win. Yeah.
Battle of the Announcers, Harry Carey versus Hawk Harrelson.
Oh, Hawk.
Is it because of socks? Or
No,
he's a tougher guy.
Schmuck. You know that Harry started with not started. He actually started in St. Louis.
But he was a White Sox guy.
He was a White Sox guy. He would drink Falstaff beer and eat Baby Ruths. And you could see the peanuts flying out of the Baby Ruth the more Falstaffs he had. Hawk Harrelson was a fighter. You ever see his special on Hawk Harrelson? You could see his knuckles. Like he used to brawl. He was a drinker. Well, Harry was too. But no, that's an easy one. Steve Stone's a good guy. I like him.
Have you ever met Steve?
Many times. One of my best friends from college is a guy named Lyle Harris. Lyle's dad was a guy named Arnie Harris.
We talked about this. Arnie Harris was the video director for the Cubs.
He was for WGN and the Cubs.
Yeah.
He was the best. And so I met Steve through him, and Steve was nothing but a mensch. And he's a good Sox announcer. I like him. And he tells it like it is.
Shout out to my buddy Dom here, because we talked about this, but I want to say this on there. Arnie Harris is the reason why when you watch Cubs games, you see, even in today's weird world, scanning the entire crowd for hot girls.
Yes, you did.
And I was in 1993. I was a kid. I'll never forget. And you're just watching these, midday games, and all of a sudden, slow game against a Pirate. The Cubs were terrible. And you can count on Arnie Harris picking out girls and bikinis and whatever else they're doing in the crowd. It's crazy.
It was always like that.
But here's the funny. You told me that was actually a discussion.
Absolutely. Well, we would be in the truck. Lyle would bring us in the truck. We'd all sit there. I would go for whatever team's playing the Cubs. I was the only Cub hater in the room. And Arnie, you could hear Arnie, talk to Harry in the headphones, like at the commercial, like, Harry, okay, look, camera 3, look at her in the green shirt, like that. And Harry was looking at the one in the green shirt, and so were we. It's like right there, and then as soon as right back on, he back into it. You should have Capadera on here, and John will do a whole Harry Carey doing that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Before we lock it up, when you go back to the city, where do you hang out? What are your hot spots?
I bring my fiance. Every time we go in, I try to get her to see some of the sights. And we go, last time we saw Hamilton, we went to a Bears game. We went to the Art Institute, do it as much as we could. But for almost every free moment I have, if we're not doing something that's somewhat to please her, is I want to be with my parents.
Yeah.
Family. I spend every minute I can with my folks. I'm so close with my parents. They're 83. My friends know it too. When I'm still really tight with a lot of my buddies I grew up with there. They'll come to my folks' house. They'll come out there and, because they all are close to my parents, but I just don't want to leave. Like when we go downtown or I go to do something, it's because I want my fiance to see it.
Sure.
It's not because I want to go to the Art Institute. It's because she would love to see it. I just want to hang out with my family.
That's
I really
awesome.
do, man. The hardest thing I ever did was driving away. I'll never forget pulling out of the garage and watching my parents as the garage door shut and I'm driving. I cried from Chicago. I was on a thing called a Medrol pack. I have really bad asthma. So take a Medrol pack. It makes you more emotional. You shouldn't give that to me. No one should give me anything that makes me more emotional. It's just not a good combo. I have asthma. And it's prednisone. I cried for 8 straight hours. I saw that garage door close, man. It still breaks my heart every time because I miss them. They miss me. And and any car that drove by me had a Chevy or a Maxima. No, Chevy Lumina. I guarantee they don't make those anymore. Loaded with all my possessions, my 25-inch TV that was this big, because all the shit in it, all the big box tube TVs.
Yeah.
And when you see a guy, you're driving 80 down the highway, and you see a guy crying and his car's loaded, you don't want to drive near him.
No,
there's no one was driving next to me. I'm like, why is there no traffic? It's because of me. I was crying.
But food-wise, nothing.
Oh yeah, food-wise, my parents are fanatical for Barnaby's. I love Barnaby's.
You're the only person.
I love Barnaby's.
You are episode whatever. Nobody knew what Barnaby's was.
What?
That's my spot.
Oh, I love Barnaby's. The one in Northbrook. The one in Northbrook's better.
Well, that's the only one that really kind of exists these days. Well, there's one in Niles area, or was.
Yeah, and there's one in Buffalo Grove area too. It's just not the same.
I grew up on near Toohey.
Yeah.
On the north side.
Toohey and what?
Well, it was Toohey in California.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's where I used to hang, and then they got rid of it and became like a mosque or a synagogue or whatever it became.
Barnaby's is the best.
It was the best.
Well, people
for thin crust. They didn't have the deep dish stuff.
So there's also a place in Wheeling called Joe's Pizza. I love it. Joe's and Barnaby's are my favorite.
Barnaby's, dude.
My parents love Barnaby's.
I'm so glad you said this.
I love Joe's. My fiance liked Barnaby's more too. So here's what I do every time I go home. I'll bring back the Lou Malnati's because they're easy to travel with. I give them
they mail it sometimes now.
Yeah, but it's I'm Jewish. It's $13 to pick it up there. I'm not paying $26 for the pizza when I get.
Save me some money, bro.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks so much, dude.
My pleasure,
Seriously,
brother. My pleasure.
You are the greatest. And guys,
too, buddy.
check them out. Again, Death Squad. Thank you so much, guys. Check it out, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
Peace.